welcome back to my channel. Today's video, as promised, we're going to talk about web chat tips and techniques to help you become better digital customer service expert. Let's begin. Chris is on her favorite e-commerce site reading reviews for the purchase of a new juicer she is considering. She thinks she's ready to make her purchase, but first she has a question about a particular part of the company's return policy. Rather than calling them and sitting on hold or emailing and waiting hours for a response, Chris taps into the quick web chat feature right in the lower left corner of the e-commerce site. She is then connected to a representative within minutes. Alrighty, that was quite a different flow this time, isn't it? Because we are so used to listening to voice calls and mock call practice, and that was kind of a different feel because now we're talking about non-voice customer service or digital customer service through web chat. In my last video, I talked about the 3 essential skills that you need to have if you want to build a career in the digital customer service industry. And I talked about some of the ways that customers can reach companies, businesses, and brands. And one of those is the web chat feature that pops up on the business or company's website or e-commerce site. And then the customer can just send in a quick message and then we'll get a response. So that was the case in the particular chat flow that I have shown you earlier. And we're going to talk about some points to consider, very important tips, especially when you're just beginning in this industry. There are quite a lot that I've listed here, so I'm going to take a look at my notes for sure. Let's digest and talk about the best practices of web chat services. So in that particular chat flow, Thor, our customer service representative, started with a friendly greeting. He's casual but not too formal, which is what you want when you're speaking with customers online. As you know, it's a chat, so it's not too stiff, not too over-the-top professional. Thor, our agent, also speaks or chats in a more conversational tone. And this is showing that he is friendly and he is still professional. So not over the top, feeling close type of friendly. By saying that, sure, I'd be glad to answer your questions. It gives the customer that feeling that there is a real human being behind the computer that speaks with her. So it's a must. Another thing is that he sounds natural and real, not just like the usual chatbots that you will encounter when you are messaging some companies on social media or on their web chat service. Before we continue, I do want to let you know that I've been working with Multiply Me to strengthen my drive of helping people get hired and thrive in the BPO industry. Multiply Me is a BPO company that provides career opportunities to Filipinos here in the Philippines. If you are looking for job security and valuable benefits while working at the comfort of your home, then do sign up for our Future Opportunities program. Just click the link on the description below and it will lead you to your Facebook Messenger. To know more about how it works, check out the card linked up on this video. Now, just a note here, there's a high chance that a customer would reach a chatbot first before reaching an actual customer service representative or a human agent. That is because, of course, companies and businesses need to do what they can to make their workflow more efficient and more time saving for them as well as for the customer. So it's not entirely bad to have chatbots because those are, the beginning of the conversations. However, when the customer already has a more specific question, that's when an actual real human customer service representative is to the rescue, just like, what happened earlier. Aside from that, auto questions may also pop up on the web chat feature or in social media. And this is one way for companies and businesses to automate their procedures, their workflows. Again, this is all for efficiency as well as to save time and save costs. You don't have to put an actual customer service representative there if the question can just be answered with a document about the frequently asked questions, right? It's part of growing and scaling the companies. Don't feel bad when you have chatbots and when you encounter chatbots. Although I'd say I'd feel bad if all I'd encounter is a chatbot and there's no actual human being speaking with me. That's super annoying and a terrible customer service because, as you know, we need a real human to assist us. Okay, so now that that's out of the way, one of the best practices as well for web chat is for you to carefully read the customer's question to identify her concern and so that you can answer it one and done. You don't just give out information right away, even if you haven't even clarified what the concern is, because that's chat and you cannot just take it back once you've said it. You can't just delete what you've responded to the customer. So make sure that everything is clear to you first. The question is clear before you start typing your answer and sending it. If there's anything unclear to you, then just ask a follow-up question before sending your final response, right? It's so much easier than having to correct yourself every single time, especially if it's just a simple or a basic question. Now, if it's a more complicated question, try to ask more follow-up questions or probing questions to ensure that you can provide the right answer or resolution to the issue. If the questions of the customer does not really need a lengthy explanation, then it is best to use short and quick responses. And in between conversations, or in between statements rather, you can also use short, quick responses similar to what Thor did earlier. If there is a need for you to update the customer from time to time, then feel free to do so. It's really just like a call. You send a chat to the customer saying that I'm still here. I'm just trying to research the correct or accurate information for you, Next thing is stay on task and avoid too much small talk. The short, quick responses that I mentioned earlier are not meant for small talk. They're meant for you to engage the customer, update the customer what's happening, because the customer is expecting for you to respond, right? But if you haven't responded in quite a long time, then the customer will wonder where you've been or where you are. So there. But small talks are not necessary because the customer really just want to have a quick resolution. For longer responses, just my personal preference, which I think will help make the message be more readable. I don't lump all of my responses in one statement. Rather, I use 1 to 2 sentences per statement or per paragraph, and then I add in a line break or a space, and then the next statement, 1 to 2 sentences, and then space, and then another 1 to 2 sentences. You bet it would be easier to read that response rather than one full paragraph that's all, lumped together. It's super hard to read a long text for sure. Another best practice is for you to ask one question at a time to avoid confusing the customer. If you ask 3 questions at a time, then the customer may miss out on the second or third question. So one question, wait for the customer to respond, next question, and then wait for the customer to respond. I am not even sure if other companies have a strict guideline on this, but that's just my personal preference, especially with web chat service, wherein longer responses may not be as effective. And again, going back to my previous point, if it's a longer response, don't forget to have your space in between sentences. Next, deliver a quick and simple solution by making use of your tools and your resources. So, don't just create your own magic response or resolution. Always rely on your job aid or company guidelines. And in relation to that, if the explanation requires to be communicated in a lengthier form or in detail, then it is best to provide your customer a link to a document, a public document, or maybe a page on the website for the FAQs or frequently asked questions, where they can just go through it on their own, so that you don't have to type the entire thing on the chat box. What I usually do sometimes is I copy, if it's just a line or two, I copy it from the FAQs guide or the website, then I paste it on the chat box. But if I feel like the customer really needs to read the entire page, then I just go ahead and give the link, just like what Thor did earlier about the return policy, right? It really spares you from typing a longer response. And the next thing is to prepare a bank of canned responses. So canned responses are like chat templates that you can easily copy and then paste to a chat box to save you some time of answering questions and typing. And most likely, you will receive the same questions over and over again. And if you do, you'll have to answer it the same thing in the same way over and over again. You just have to make a template for that type of question, copy from your notepad or wherever you want to save it, and then paste it on the chat box once the customer asks the same question. But one thing that I want to point out here is do not overdo your canned responses to the point that your customer feels like he or she is speaking with a robot or a chatbot for that matter. Don't forget to add a bit of personality. I find that adding emojis really help lighten up the situation or the mood of the chat. So if you're allowed to use emojis, then go ahead and do so. Appropriate emojis, already? And make sure before you send your emoji that it is correct and appropriate for the situation, and you know the meaning of that emoji, because you don't want to be sending that thinking that it's the meaning of that emoji, but the customer really thinks otherwise. You know what I mean. When it comes to transferring chats, yes, for calls you can transfer. For chats, you can also transfer. If there's a need to transfer because the concern is already out of your scope, or if the customer wants to speak with another person or maybe a supervisor, then it is best to explain to the next agent first about the situation of the customer or what transpired in your call, so that the customer does not need to type it all over again. And that's going to be such a waste of time and super annoying for the customer. Now, when it comes to chatting with multiple customers, I get it. You don't just get to chat with one customer. Lucky you if you do, but you might encounter a lot of customers popping up on your system. And that's the reason you probably have a typing test before you got hired, because you gotta have to be fast when typing. And that's quite of a risk, especially when you're a fast typer, but sometimes you make mistakes, right? So what I can say is that make sure you double check the name of that person you're sending the chat to. That's the only way for you to make sure that you are sending the correct chat response to a particular customer. So again, review the name of that person in the chat box and make sure that that response is really for that customer to avoid mixing it up with others. If you want to know more or learn more about digital customer service, email tips for beginners, and some more non-voice tips, I have a playlist for everything like that. I'm going to link it up there and go ahead and check it out after this video. So if you haven't subscribed yet, make sure you do. Tap the bell for notifications so you'll be updated for my next videos. Comment below if you have questions, and I'll see you on the next one. Take care and